Imagine you were a student in the Nazi regime. Would you fight back, even if it meant death? A group of medical students from Munich University formed a resistance group, despite knowing the consequence for treason was execution. They called themselves the White Rose. This quote by German philosopher Johann Gottlieb Fichte encapsulates the ideology of these courageous students. And thou shalt act, as if on thee and on thy deed depended the fate of all Germany, and thou alone must answer for it. The creators of the White Rose were Hans Fritz Scholl, born in Ingolstadt, Germany, September 22, 1918, and Alexander Schmorl, born in September 16, 1917, in Orenburg, Russia. These key members were later joined by Sophia Magdalena Scholl, Kurt Huber, Christopher Probst, and Wilhelm Graf. Despite being siblings, Sophie and Hans had contrasting personalities. In a testimony, George Wittenstein, another member of the White Rose, described Hans, saying, "His head too much in the clouds. I think he was the least realistic of all of them, but he was the drive behind most of this." While he described Sophie as wonderful, a marvelous, enthusiastic young lady full of joie de vivre, a fabulous person. These upstanders did not risk their lives for no good reason. Rather, they were driven by their indignation towards the atrocities committed by Hitler and the Reich. In 1942, Munich was covered in Nazi brown. Swastikas hung from buildings. People were hearing of the horrors committed against Jews, including the removal from their homes, concentration camps, and downright mass murders. The future members of the White Rose despised themselves for even trying to act like nothing was happening. They had to do something to help. So, in the summer of 1942, Hans Scholl and Alex Schmorl founded the White Rose. Their plan? To write leaflets dissent against Nazis, then secretly mimeograph and distribute them. They sent out pamphlets to anyone who would listen, but they especially targeted professors and students. Soon the group expanded to Hans' entire friend group at the University of Munich, who all frequently discussed their hatred for the Nazis, and later, his sister Sophie. Though the members were idealists, they were not blind visionaries. They knew that only an army could defeat the Nazis, so they focused their pamphlets on informing German citizens and sparking German rebellion. A quote from the second leaflet captures how the White Rose swayed citizens into changing. "Is your spirit already so crushed by abuse that you forget it is your right, or rather your moral duty, to eliminate this system? But if a man no longer can summon the strength to demand his right, then it is absolutely certain that he will perish." As the group expanded its operation, it became harder to remain anonymous. Finally, the operation collapsed.
In February of 1943, less than a year after the group's founding, disaster struck. Without telling anyone, Hans and Sophie went to the University of Munich to distribute pamphlets. They had finished and were leaving the school when they realized that they still had a couple leaflets left. They recklessly turned back to disperse the remainder in the school's atrium. But unbeknownst to them, they had not gone unseen, and as they finished, the chief janitor who witnessed them called the Gestapo. After the capture of the Scholls, the Gestapo followed trails to find and arrest all the core members. They were sent to trial in the People's Court, presided over by the notoriously unfair judge Roland Freisler. During the trials, the members of the White Rose did not surrender and modeled what true humanity means. The siblings and many other members took nearly everything on themselves, in an effort to protect the group from total destruction. Even when Sophie was offered a lessened sentence in return for pledging loyalty to the Nazis, she denied, instead choosing to die with the rest. On February 22, 1943, the Scholz and Christoph Probst were executed by guillotine. Traute Lefrenz recalls the horror of it all.
Da sind die Eltern hingefahren und haben erfahren, das Todesurteil für ihre Kinder. 3 Tage nachdem es alles war. Diese Leichen, war furchtbar.
The White Rose will forever be remembered as a symbol of defiance against the Nazi regime. Their choice to stand in solidarity, even in the face of death, as a refusal to endorse the Nazis, has made them shining beacons of light for generations to come. George Wittenstein, a member of the White Rose, gives his opinion on how young people are able to stand up. What do you think the world needs? To have people be able to stand up for what they believe in, like you young people did? Conviction, guts, courage, and probably role models. Finally, how can our world, with all our newfound resources, stand up for what is righteous, even when there are consequences?